Did you know that more than 70% of households today own a personal computer? What might surprise you is that this revolution truly began in the 1980s, a decade of big hair, neon fashion, and groundbreaking technology that still defines the way we live today. Welcome to Past and Present. Today, we're diving into how the 1980s shaped our modern world. At first glance, it may look like just another colourful, quirky decade filled with cassette tapes, shoulder pads, and arcade games. But beneath the pop culture and flashy style, the 80s built the foundations for much of our modern society. It was the decade where personal computers moved into homes, where MTV revolutionized music, and where blockbuster movies defined global entertainment. It was also a time when fashion became a worldwide phenomenon and technology started connecting people in ways no one had imagined. By exploring the defining innovations and cultural shifts of the 1980s, we'll see how this one decade continues to shape the way we communicate, dress, and entertain ourselves in the 21st century. When people think of the 80s, they often picture leg warmers, Rubik's Cubes, or kids crowded around an arcade machine. But the real challenge is recognizing how much of what we take for granted today actually started in that era. The 1980s weren't just playful, they were disruptive. Technology was moving at a pace that society had never experienced before. Personal computers, once massive and reserved for labs, shrank into beige boxes that sat on family desks. But for many, the idea of a computer in every home felt unnecessary, even intimidating. Parents wondered, would kids spend too much time in front of screens? Could computers really replace typewriters, notebooks, or libraries? Video games posed a similar question. The Nintendo Entertainment System, the Sega Master System, and arcades like Pac-Man and Donkey Kong introduced a new kind of leisure. But they also sparked concern about addiction and the future of childhood. These debates, screen time, technology in schools, and digital dependency, still exist today. At the same time, culture was shifting rapidly. MTV didn't just broadcast music videos, it transformed how artists and fans interacted. Suddenly, image was as important as sound. But not everyone welcomed this change. Some critics worried music would lose its substance, becoming more about style than art. And all of this unfolded against a tense backdrop: the Cold War. Global uncertainty mixed with optimism and creativity, shaping films, fashion, and politics alike. The challenge, both then and now, is untangling which 80s changes were fleeting trends and which became the very building blocks of our daily lives. Let's break down some of the most influential legacies of the 1980s. The launch of the IBM PC in 1981 and the Apple Macintosh in 1984 marked the beginning of the personal computing age. Microsoft introduced Windows, setting the stage for decades of software dominance. These changes didn't just make life easier, they permanently altered how we learn, work, and socialize. Suddenly, offices adopted spreadsheets, students typed essays, and families played simple computer games like Oregon Trail. The 80s made computing personal. In 1981, MTV went live with the words, "Ladies and gentlemen, rock and roll." For the first time, music was both seen and heard. Michael Jackson's Thriller wasn't just an album, it was a cinematic event. Madonna didn't just sing, she embodied an attitude, turning every appearance into a cultural statement. MTV made stars larger than life, but it also changed marketing, advertising, and even politics. Campaigns began borrowing the flashy, fast-cut style of music videos to grab attention. Films of the 80s weren't just entertainment, they shaped how generations thought about friendship, identity, and even the future. Back to the Future inspired dreams of time travel and hoverboards. E.T. made us believe in friendship beyond our world. The Breakfast Club told teens their struggles mattered. Many franchises born in the 80s, Ghostbusters, Transformers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, still thrive, proving the staying power of 80s storytelling. Even today's Marvel blockbusters borrow from the spectacle and adventure-first spirit of that era. Bold was the rule in fashion. Neon colors, oversized blazers, leg warmers, and parachute pants defined a generation unafraid of standing out. Athletic wear went mainstream, with brands like Nike and Adidas transforming sneakers from gym shoes into status symbols. Music videos and movies amplified trends instantly across borders, globalizing fashion like never before. Even now, designers return to the 80s for inspiration, whether it's the comeback of chunky sneakers or the revival of vintage sportswear. Beyond pop culture, the 80s were also about big ideas. Environmental awareness began to grow. The fitness craze, led by icons like Jane Fonda with her workout tapes, turned health into a lifestyle industry. Technology, fashion, entertainment, and lifestyle combined to create a society more interconnected and brand conscious than ever before. Each of these examples shows how the 80s didn't just reflect a moment in time. They created frameworks that still define technology, entertainment, fashion, and even identity today. If we had to pick one defining event of the 1980s that captures the decade's transformative power, it would be the 1984 launch of the Apple Macintosh. The commercial, directed by Ridley Scott and aired during the Super Bowl, depicted a futuristic dystopia where conformity reigned until a lone woman shattered the screen with a hammer. The message was clear: Apple was bringing freedom and creativity to individuals. For the first time, technology wasn't for experts or corporations, it was for everyone. That vision reshaped the digital world. Culturally, the rise of MTV was equally groundbreaking. Before MTV, music lived on the radio. After MTV, music lived on screens, in images, in fashion. The first video they played, "Video Killed the Radio Star" by The Buggles, was more than a catchy song. It was prophecy. Within a few years, artists couldn't succeed without a strong visual identity. Fans weren't just listening, they were watching, imitating, and sharing culture at a global scale. Together, these two moments, the democratization of technology through the Macintosh and the explosion of visual culture through MTV, represent the heartbeat of the 1980s. They show how a single decade could redefine how we use technology, how we consume media, and how we see ourselves. So, what have we learned? The 1980s weren't just about fads and fun, they were a turning point in history. Technology leapt forward with personal computers and software that still shape our digital lives. MTV and pop culture redefined global entertainment, while movies and fashion created icons that never really left. Every time we use a smartphone, stream music videos, or wear retro-inspired clothes, we're carrying a little piece of the 1980s with us. That decade's influence continues to echo in ways big and small, making it one of the most important cultural and technological chapters in modern history. And now it's your turn. How do you think the 1980s shaped the world you live in today? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed this dive into the past, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more stories that connect yesterday with today.